Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Tomi, and in this video I am going to talk about how I immigrated from Nigeria to Canada. I moved here in January 2020 and I currently live in British Columbia. Now, although this is tailor-made to like my experience moving from Nigeria to Canada, it can really apply to anyone all over the world because Nigeria doesn't determine the rules, the Canadian government does. So if you're trying to immigrate from India or any other country, you can also watch this video. Now, I'm just going to tell you a brief summary of the process. There are many ways to immigrate to Canada permanently. I use the Express Entry. Under the Express Entry, there are two methods. There is the Federal Skilled Workers Program and there's the PNP, which is the Provincial Nominee Program. This video is going to focus on the Federal Skilled Workers Program. The main difference is with the Provincial Nominee, you are tied to a province in Canada for 5 years. With the Federal Skilled, you can work anywhere in Canada that you want. So I live in BC now, but then I could always leave and go to Ontario tomorrow if I wanted to and go work there. Now, who is a permanent resident? A permanent resident of Canada is someone who is legally entitled to work, live in Canada. You have the same rights as a Canadian citizen except the right to vote. How do I start the process? You start by creating a profile via link in the description. I put it there. It is a point-based system, which means the more points you have, the higher your chances of getting to Canada. The Canadian government does a draw every 2 weeks where they prescribe a minimum score. If you meet that minimum score, then they give you an ITA. An ITA is an invitation to apply, and then so the Canadian government is inviting you to apply for the permanent residence process. Once you get that ITA, you have 60 days to submit everything you need to submit your application. Now I'm going to divide this into 6 stages just so it is easy to follow. I'm going to do the education, IELTS, work experience, medical, proof of fund, and miscellaneous. So let's get into it. The first stage is education. Now, for the Express Entry system, which I did, the more educated you are, the more points you get. So for example, if you have 1 bachelor's degree, I think that's 120 points. If you have 2, that's 128 points. If you have a master's degree, that's 135 points. If you have a PhD, 150 points. So you get it, the more educated you are, the more points you get, and you want to get as much points as possible. Now, so unless you have a Canadian degree, so that means unless you got your undergraduate or your master's or your postgraduate degree from a Canadian university, you have to evaluate your degree, because according to immigration system in Canada, they don't recognize your degree unless you evaluate them. Now, there are many ways in which you evaluate them, but I'm only going to talk about 2, the most popular ones, which is WES and ICAS. So I'm going to put the link in the description for both WES and ICAS, so you can go there and check it out right now. So you usually start off with opening an account with WES or ICAS. You pay the prescribed fees. After paying the prescribed fees, they give you an identification number. You go to your university. You ask your university to send your transcript to the address provided by WES or ICAS, and they have to put that identification number on your transcript or on the envelope. Now, your transcript must be sent by your university. If you send it yourself, it invalidates the entire process. It must be seen to be sent from your university, and it must be in a sealed and stamped envelope. So pretty much, they don't want you to have opened this. They want it to be as authentic as possible. So you have to go to your university and you have to tell them to send this transcript to ICAS or WES, whichever one you choose to use. Now, there's some universities who have an online transfer system whereby you don't have to send paper transcripts, and WES recognizes that, so you can use Digitary or GradIntel. I school in England, so I use Digitary or GradIntel, but it doesn't really matter if your school doesn't have that. Paper transcripts still work. I know for a lot of Nigerian universities, you have to follow up with them to get it done. Don't be discouraged by this process. Now, I'm going to talk about the fees for this right now. WES charges $220 excluding tax. Now when I say dollars here, I'm talking about Canadian dollars. They also charge for delivery of the hard copies. Now you don't need the hard copies when you're applying, you just need a soft copy. So what I did was I told Wes to send my evaluation report to my friend in Canada. My friend scanned the document for me because that's what you need on the system, right? Now the delivery fee ranges from $10 to $85. So $10 I think for like local delivery and $85 for international delivery. ICAS charges 200 Canadian dollars, so ICAS is actually cheaper than West. And they also charge like delivery for hard copies, and that ranges from $15 to $75. So ICAS definitely seems cheaper to use than West. Now I'm going to tell you the pros and cons for using ICAS and West. I think there isn't like any particular difference. The difference I've noticed with ICAS is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well, but get the point. With ICAS is, ICAS gives you, if you study a degree, a professional degree that is about 5 years in university, they equate it to a master's level, which means that your undergraduate degree can be assessed as a master's degree, giving you more points. Now, how long is your certificate for when you get it from West or ICAS? It is valid for 5 years, which is why I put this at the first step, because you can do this and then keep your certificate for 5 years and still try to figure out, okay, do I want to relocate? Like, what is the process? Blah, blah, blah. Now, I have to tell you, it takes a long time to get your stuff. West, I think, told me 20 working days, but mine took about, I don't know, it took more than 20 working days for sure. But on their website now, I see that West has said 35 days from when they receive your documents. Now you understand that like you are sending your documents from your school, so until your transcripts get to West, the days don't start counting. West is 35 days. ICAS says on an average 14 weeks, but let me tell you guys, it takes longer than that. So I would always start with evaluating my transcript, because while you're waiting for your certificate, you can be doing other things, right? Now, under education, we need to move into the one that everyone knows about, your IELTS. Now, I think everyone knows about IELTS, but just to make it simple, it's pretty much like an English language test exam. It's just so the Canadian government knows that you can speak and write English. So pretty much you would have no problem communicating with other people when you get to Canada, right? Now, there are two types of IELTS. There's the academic and the general training. When you're trying to immigrate to Canada, you just need the general training. Please do not take the academic. That is not valid for immigration to Canada. That is only valid when you're trying to get into a school in Canada. Right. So in Nigeria, you can take your IELTS in 3 different places that I know of. I know you do the British Council. There is the, actually it's 2. It's 2 places, British Council and MOD, but then that's what I know. I know that there will be so much more out there, so you can do your research. British Council charges 75,000 naira, and they take the exams in 11 states. I have put the links to, British Council, how they take the exams, everything in the description, so you can just check it out. MOD also has like various locations, I think in like the southwest, so Lagos, Ibadan, and some other places. Also the link is in the description for you to see that. MOD charges 73,000, so it is 2,000 naira cheaper than British Council. It is the same exam. There isn't any pro, I don't think there's any like difference. I used MOD because it was cheaper. Okay, so something else that you need to know is that you have to prepare for this IELTS. I know it might seem very flimsy, like, oh, I know English, I speak English. Let me tell you something. I failed my IELTS the first time I wrote it. I mean, not failed, because you can never actually fail the IELTS, but I didn't get enough marks to meet the points that I needed to meet, right? So the more points you get, the better for you. IELTS is grouped into 4 categories. There's listening, which goes on for 30 minutes, where you listen to somebody speak to you and you answer questions based off of what you've heard. There is the reading, whereby you're reading a bunch of like comprehensions and answering questions. That goes on for 1 hour. There's the writing, whereby you have like 2 different parts. You're pretty much, I think you write a letter and then you give like an argument, that takes 1 hour. And there is a speaking whereby someone's going to be asking you questions, it's going to be recorded, and that takes 15 minutes. Now let me tell you something, you gotta prepare. You gotta, like, honestly, you gotta study for this thing. And there's so many like ways to do that. You can go on YouTube. There's so many like IELTS training, IELTS speaking, IELTS writing. Do your preparation. I'm going to put the link for like online tests for IELTS, so you can just like, you know, practice, see how you're doing. What I first did was I took the practice test first to see how am I now before I started studying, and then that allowed me to know what my problem areas were, and I didn't stop practicing until I was pretty much getting 8 or 9. When I mean 8 or 9, the score is over 9, so you either get like from 1 to 9. The more points you get, the better for you. I'm telling you, you need every point you can get for this IELTS. Yes. And the validity of the IELTS certificates is for 2 years. Again, you want to do this once you do your IELTS. I would recommend that you actually take this seriously, because you do, especially once you've gotten the marks that you need, you don't want to write IELTS again. Trust me, it is crazy. So that's it on education. Just to do a recap on education, it is your undergraduate degree or your postgraduate degree, sending it to an evaluation center that evaluates and gives you a certificate, and that is valid for 5 years. And then you take an IELTS exam, general training, and that is valid for 2 years. The next step is your work experience. Now, just like education, the more work experience you have, the higher your points are. So if you have 3 years or more, you get 50 points. If you have 1 to 2 years, you get 25 points. So you know, the more work experience you have, the better for you. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, okay, I'll just say I have 10 years. Doesn't work that way. You need to back it up. Like, you're going to need a reference letter from your current employers or your past employer, pretty much backing up everything that you said you've done. Now, the letter can't just be however they want it. It has to contain certain details, and it has to contain details in accordance with your NOC. Now, what is a NOC? A NOC is your National Occupation Code. This is what everybody falls into a NOC. And you go to the Canadian, it's like a website, you find out what your NOC is. So for example, I'm a lawyer, so my NOC is 4112. I'm going to put the link in the description for you to check out what your NOC is, right? Because you need to follow that category 0, A or B. It will make more sense when you check the link. Go there, type in what you do. If you're a doctor, type in doctor. If you're an accountant, type there. If you're, you know, like a content creator, you type it there. Something's got to give. You will find your NOC in there, and then you have to back it up. You have to get your employer to give you a reference letter to back it up. Now, your reference letter must contain certain things. It must contain your full name as is written on your international passport. It must contain your designation, job title that correlates with your NOC, right? So for example, when I was coming here, my job title was head of legal, and that correlates with being a lawyer, because for you to be the head of legal of a company, you must be a lawyer. You need to say the nature of your employment. It has to be full-time employment, your hours per week. Usually I think it's supposed to be 40 hours, because if you're in full-time employment, sorry about that, it has to be 40 hours per week, because if you're in full-time employment, it will most likely be between 35 to 40 hours per week. You need to put your start and your end time. Maybe you start at 8, finish at 5, stuff like that. Now, your total annual salary, you have to put it there. You can put it in Naira, you don't have to put it in, or put in whatever currency you were earning at. Job description, your job description, that has to match the NOC code. Now, don't go and copy and paste the entire NOC code, because for example, if I was working in the entertainment industry and I was the head of legal, I can't now say my job was going to court, because I wasn't going to court. I was an in-house counsel, so I couldn't go to court. So make sure within reason, don't copy and paste it. One thing you don't want to do when you're applying for any type of visa is to lie. You have to be honest, because these things, they will come back to bite you. Anyways, if you have pay slips, you want to attach that as well. I attached 6 months pay slip, so pretty much saying, you know, hey, they've been paying money, my salary into this account, blah 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 blah. You usually get your pay slips from the accountant or HR. Now, this just to know, your reference letter has to be on a letterhead paper of the company. It has to be dated, it has to be signed, it has to be stamped, and it has to be signed by someone who has authority to do so. So this is usually your HR, any director, or your line manager. Make sure it is by somebody who has authority. You're going to put the phone number of the person, the email of the person that signed. Sometimes the immigration is going to reach out to whoever signed the letter to confirm what was written there. So don't just write stuff that you cannot back up. Don't just create things there. They verify this thing. It takes a while, so there's a lot of verification process, and you don't want to be found wanting. The next stage is your medicals. Now, you have got to do a medical test at a pre-approved hospital or a pre-approved physician, as they call it here. And the list of the pre-approved physicians is in the description below. You just go there, you type in your country, and it tells you like what the Canadian government has said. These are the hospitals that you can go to. Please do not go to any other hospital, because if you do, your certificate, your results from the medical facility will not be valid. In Nigeria, there are about 3 places that you can do it. There's IOM in Abuja, there's IOM in Ikeja GRA, and there's Q Life in Victoria Island. I did mine at Q Life. At the time it was 21,000 naira, but now I think it's 35,000 naira. So what you're pretty much doing is a full medical exam, your urine test, x-ray, check for STDs. Now if you're a woman, please make sure you don't go when you're on your period, because you won't be able to do it. And let me tell you something, getting a spot to do your medical is like, I would say book your medical ASAP. Like, not even like, I would recommend as soon as you know you have the required score. So if you've been saying that the previous scores have been like 470 and your points are 480, you can just book your medical like ASAP, because it is tough getting a spot. Everyone in Nigeria is trying to do their medical in 3 hospitals. It is crazy. Now the duration of the medical, the validity of your certificate is 1 year. I will explain how that validity comes in when you get your PR later down. It could take as long as 5 hours, so I would say you should take the day off if you can. Get there super early. I think they open at 8 o'clock, but you want to get there like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. I'm telling you, it is crazy. Get there super early. One more thing to know, if you have piercings other than like the 2 ones on the ears that your parents probably gave you, you will do an hepatitis test. If you have piercings, if you have tattoos, if you also have tribal marks, because for them those are like, I don't know, but I'm not a medical professional. All I know is you will have to do an additional test. When I did mine, because I have 2 tattoos, I had to pay 7,000 naira extra, but now I hear it's about 15,000. So for your medical, I mean, they will like tell you what the fee is going to be. So I would recommend just budgeting like 50,000 naira for your medical. Now we're at like one of the most critical parts of relocation, and it is money. It is expensive to move to Canada. Like, anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. You're going to have a certain like amount of money to show to the government that you can take care of yourself for at least 6 months in Canada in case you don't get a job ASAP. Now, the money is prescribed by the government. I'm going to put the link in the description for how much. It varies. If it's 1 person, it's about 1,300. If it's 2 or more people, it's about 1,600. If it's like a family of like 3 people, it's about 20,000 Canadian dollars. So I don't know what your situation is, but like, just check the link and then it'll tell you exactly how much you need to have. Now, you have to be able to show that you have this money. How do you show you have this money? There are various ways that you can do it. You can show like your personal savings. Just show your bank statement with a lot of transaction on it that has the balance, has to have the minimum amount that you're supposed to present. So for example, if I was to show my bank statement, the balance should have at least $12,960. Now that's not very wise if there's a lot of transaction on that account. So I would say I would want to have more than that, so that they know that, you know, I'm not just going to leave the money in my account and just stress. Like, it just looks a bit off. Like, have more than that in your account if you're using your personal savings. Yeah. Now or you can use a deed of gift. This is when somebody gives you the money. Now, keyword, gift. Not a loan, nothing like that. The person has to dash you the money, and in order for you to do that, you're going to sign an agreement called a deed of gift. That person is going to say, I'm giving this person this money because I want to give the person the money. It is a gift. I have no right to this money, and I'm giving the person this money to use it for whatever they want. Whatever they want to use it for. When I was applying for mine, my dad signed a deed of gift for me, and then he put the money in my account. Now let me tell you something, dates must correlate. We dated the deed of gift the exact day that the money dropped into my account, and for deed of gifts they have to be notarized, which means that they have to be signed by countersigned actually by a notary public or the courts, right? You just have to say, like, this is a huge deal. Someone just dashing you money. It doesn't just happen. They need to know that it is authentic, and the way to get that done is getting you notarized. And now you can do like a deed of gift. Let's say you need like $12,000. You can do half deed of gift and half personal savings. You can say, let's say my dad gave me $6,000 and then I had $6,000 in my account. You could combine both of them, right? And all of these things, you can combine them. You could also use your pension. Now, the key to putting all these things down, your pension statement, is to show that you can access the money. They need to know they are not just showing them decoration money. You should be able to access the money. You can use your mutual funds account statement from your mutual funds. You can even use like a will, like if somebody willed you X amount of money, you can use that to apply. But you have to be able to show this money is yours and that you can access this money, and this money is yours alone. Moving away from the proof of funds, you now have the application fees. Now this is big money too, right? So the application fees can go from about 14,000. No, I want to say 1410, so I said 14,000. Sorry. The application fees is it starts from like $1,410 upward. Now it's always changing. I've put the link in the description for you to find what the current application fees are, so that you get it right. The processing fees per adult is $825. It is non-refundable. You have to pay at the time you're submitting your application. The processing fee for children is $225. Then there's also what they call the right of permanent residence fees. That is $500 for adults. It is refundable if you're denied. If your application is denied, the government will refund it to you, and also you don't have to pay upfront, although not paying it upfront can like delay the application process, but you don't have to. If you don't have that money and you just want to submit this application and you can get $500 in a couple of months, then submit your application. Don't let this hold you back, right? Now you have to pay biometric fee. I think everyone knows what biometric is, which is pretty much just like thumb printing, taking a picture. It's what they're going to use to do background checks, security checks on you. That is $85 per person. For two or more family, like if you're a family of two, it's $170. So all of this money, it would be good if you start putting it together when you're doing the education aspect of it as well, because it takes a while to build this thing up, especially if you're a young professional in Nigeria. It can be really hard to get all this money together. This is the last and final stage. This is the miscellaneous, which is everything that couldn't fit into the ones that I talked about. Now, your age. The younger you are, the more points you get. Like, it sucks, but that's what it is. So if you're 29 and under, it's 110 points for you. If you're 30 and under, it's about 105 points. But if you get to 41 years old, you're looking at 29 points. The older they just don't want old people. And it's so sad, but that's the truth. But if you're older and you're unable to make the points requirements, you can look at PNP, which I will be discussing in another video. Another thing to notice is that if you're married, you get more points. Married people actually get more points. So, yay! because your partner's education, your partner's IELTS will also help you to increase your points. And there's just this thing about it's easier for you to settle down in Canada if you're two as opposed to one. But something to note, if you're married, the younger person should be the one to apply, and then the older person will be the dependent. Now, it's not like a big deal or anything. It's just that, like, the person who has to show proof of funds and everything now falls on the primary applicant. If you have a relative in Canada, you get more points. You get 15 points for a relative. Now, let's be clear. Relative is not your cousins. No. Relative in this instance is a sibling. Your biological sibling, your adoptive sibling, your half sibling. It's not going to be the girl that you grew up with or the person you grew up with in your house, but there was no legal paperwork or anything to make the person your sibling. They have to be related to you. Then you're also going to need police report. You need a police report for every country you've lived in for 6 months or more. If you've lived in Nigeria all your life, you only need a police report from Nigeria. You can get that at Alagbo in Ikoyi if you're in Lagos. Now, I'm saying it's based on Lagos. I don't know what else applies where you get it if you live outside Lagos. You can get it in Alagbo. Now, as everything in Nigeria, I don't know, there's like no prescribed fee. It's just, I guess you gotta pay. I know people have paid as much as 5,000, 7,000, and as little as 2,000. So yeah, you just get a police report. If you lived anywhere else, you need to get a police report. For someone like me, I lived in England for about 4 years, so I had to get a police report from England, and it was pretty simple, straightforward. I just went to the website and then just applied for it. Next thing is your international passport. Now, they will tell you that you need an international passport with at least 6 months validity, but this process can be cumbersome. I would suggest you renew your international passport when you're applying for this, or at least you have like 3 years, because I had to, like, when I started it, I had like 10 months on it. I had to renew my passport, which is very, very annoying. You need a passport photograph. You're going to upload a soft passport photograph. I will put the specifications in the description below. Now, just something to note as an aside. Now, you can apply as a single person, and then before your application is approved, you get married, right? Now, if you do that, you just notify IRCC saying, hey, you know, I got married, this is that, but note, the amount of money in your proof of funds requirements might increase. So if you have a baby, if you get married, you can notify IRCC. It's not a problem. Just notify them before they give you your COPR. And back to what COPR is. COPR is confirmation of permanent resident, which is what the Canadian government gives you. Now, you are not really a permanent resident until you get to Canada. They give you a COPR, which is a one-time entry to Canada. But the minute your plane lands in Canada, you are a permanent resident. So I hope this was helpful. I'm going to do a video on what to expect when you land in Canada, or and what to pack when you're coming. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to my channel, and share, and yeah, ask me any questions in the comments. I'll be willing to answer.